You know what drives me crazy? Everyone says, find your passion, but nobody says, like, what are you going to do about paying mortgages or your lifestyle expenses?
Yeah, unless your job is your passion, right? There is burnout from doing both. So what do you do? You know, you juggle everything. You quit one.
Yeah, today we are talking to Kazeem Rahman, who's an IT support leader by day, stand-up comedian by night.
Oh, and dad, to what I hear, the best and most well-behaved toddler as well.
Two completely different worlds.
More like three.
Maybe three, yeah.
So we're asking, is this sustainable? How do you do it, Kazeem? Does one fuel the other?
And when AI supposedly coming for all our jobs, which one is safer? Tech support or making people laugh?
Kazeem, welcome to Two Coffees In.
Two coffees in. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I wish I had a mug. I'm not gonna lie. I saw the mugs beforehand.
We'll send you one.
So Kazeem, let's start simple. How did you end up in IT support?
I don't know. Honestly, it was one of those things. Actually, here's what happened. It's actually a weird story. So I was pre-pharmacy at the University of Texas, right? I was a phenom, right? And then failed out of college. So then
What is a phenom?
I have no idea. I just like the word. I don't know how to use the words. Listen, in this podcast, I'm gonna use words. And you just gotta roll with it. Okay? We don't know it. The words won't if you look up the definitions of the words I use, they're not correct. But when I say them, they sound right. That's
Okay.
the point. That's the point. All right. So I was a phenom. Okay.
Okay.
So I was placed, what was it called? I wasn't kicked out. I was placed on like an academic like leave, right? Where it's like, yo, your grades are trash, my guy. You gotta leave for like a couple semesters. And so then it was like you just feel lost. And my family was like, well, you should go do manage the hot thing back then was MIS. Okay.
Oh my
It
God.
was-
Tell me about
Remember
it.
that? It was managed.
Yep. It was like the cousin of computer science.
Yes, basically.
Management Information Systems.
They said no more UT, and I was sad, of course. And they was like, well, you're gonna go to HCC, and then you're gonna go to U of H. And listen, when you're like 19 and you have no money, and you live at home, and you have no idea what you want to do with your life, you just do what they tell you to do. So I went to U of H, and I was supposed to pick MIS, and I accidentally picked CIS, Computer
What is- yeah.
Information Systems, on accident. Right? It was an accident. I did not.
Did they actually know about
Big
this?
accident.
But I didn't. I lied. What are you talking about? Come on now.
Oh my God.
So then I was just doing CIS.
Okay, so comedy. When did that start? Was there like a moment, or it just happened?
I always wanted to do comedy. Comedy was always one of those things. It was like in the back of my head where I thought to myself, "Oh, I'm gonna be a pharmacist, and on the side, I'm gonna do stand-up comedy, right?" And then but I never did it. Okay, so I was in college, right? And then I remember watching. There was this show called 30 Rock a while ago, right, on NBC, right? And I was actually watching the I was watching the Emmys, because the Emmys were like in like September-ish, all right? And 30 Rock was winning all the awards, okay? And then I was watching the Golden Globes, which was like in January, right? And then 30 Rock won all the awards again. And I was like, what is this show? What is 30 Rock? And so finally, and this was the glory of TV back then, when everything was online and everything was free. Right? If you just go to NBC.com, you could just watch whatever shows you wanted to watch, because they didn't think, oh, we can monetize this. They just said, everyone go watch our shows.
Yeah, they just saw this as another channel, right? Like that's how this all started.
Yeah. Right. And then I finally watched like 2 episodes of 30 Rock and I hated it. I really don't like that show. It's really bad, in my opinion. Right. So then I thought while I was watching it, I was like, I could write something better than this. Right. And so that's when I got into
something that got so many awards.
Yeah.
And you're watching it and you're like, man, I gotta do better than this.
Yeah, I can do better than this. This is trash. What is this? There's no laugh track. What are you guys doing here? I don't know what's going on. Everything's so quirky. But then I started researching screenwriting and how to write for TV. And then I started like writing scripts. So I started writing like comedy scripts before I started stand-up comedy. And so I did that from... Wow, I was writing scripts from like 19 to like 24. I was just writing random episodes, like original things. I would write scripts for other, like a spec script is a script for another television show. So like a show that's already on. So like if I want to write an episode of like the Kardashians, I would just write an episode of the Kardashians, right? But if I want to write my original thing, that's what's called a pilot, where it's just an original idea, original characters, original everything. So then, and I always had ideas in the back of my head for stand-up comedy, or I would have jokes that would be like, that wouldn't work on a script, but in my mind I was like, that would work on stage. So I kind of wrote it down on like a separate sheet of paper or like a separate Word document of like ideas for jokes. And then, you know, graduated college, got a job. A year out of college. I didn't have a job for the first 5 months I graduated. That was when the economy was just trash then. Right, so I finally got a job. First 3 months into the job, 7 people got fired, which was all the new people, because it was a consulting company. So shout out to Sajetti. They fired me. Anyway, so they Capgemini company. That doesn't matter. Don't worry about all that. So it was one of those companies where they just had projects coming. So they were like, oh, we need to ramp up. And that's the thing of IT, where it's like everything is guaranteed, but nothing's guaranteed. Right? So especially when you're working on companies that do projects, and you're not working with companies that just have an IT department. It's like, if the project falls through, then you don't have a job, right? So 3 months in, they let me go. So I didn't have a job for another maybe 4 months. No, maybe like 3 months. And then I finally started a job where I was a traveling consultant, where they would just send me, where I would be, you know, out of Houston from Monday to Thursday. Okay. And then all this time I was just in my mind, I was like, I want to start stand-up comedy sooner or later. And then I was 24 years old. It was 2014. It was the end of 2014. It was like October. No, it was November 2014. Because I don't remember the exact day, but I remember it was in November 2014, where I finally just, you know, I went to 2 open mics to just watch. And then like back to back, the first week I went to 1 open mic to watch. The next week I went to another open mic to watch. And then the third week I went to go try a joke. I just had 2 jokes at the time.
So does like your day job end up in your material? Like you make jokes about like password resets and stuff?
No, not really. No, that's the weird thing. I really just talk about myself. I don't talk about anything outside of the things that I think about in my material. People always ask me that, like, what do I talk about? Like, people, do I talk about? Even if I talk about people, honestly, I'm just swinging it back to me, right? Like, I'll talk about you, but I'm really just talking about how I feel. I'm not talking about, like, you're not... And it sounds mean, but comics always say this: you're not more interesting than me. So you have to be more interesting than me for me not to talk about me.
But you could get a lot of material from your job.
Maybe I could. For me it's something that I like. I've genuinely never liked IT. So for me, it's like if I don't like it, I don't want to sit on stage and just complain all the time. I just would rather talk about things that make me laugh, things that actually like make me giggle, not like, stupid users who can't figure out a password reset. That's just not that's just annoying. And actually I can't do a password reset. I don't know IT like that. I've never been like a technician. I can't fix anyone's computer. I've always just been like the middleman, like the analyst, right? I've always been like the business analyst, the IT business analyst, like documenting everything, explaining to people how technology works. And then I've always been like that. I've never been, have to go into like Active Directory or anything like that. I can Google my way to success, but.
Walk us through a typical week. You are troubleshooting tickets at 3 p.m. Then what?
Wait, typical week a typical week in general?
Yeah. Or do you just do comedy in the weekends?
Oh no, so it depends. Well, it's the typical weeks have changed so much as my comedy and my life has just evolved. So when I first started comedy, typical week was every single day I would go to an open mic. So it was every single day, Monday through Friday, right? So, I wake up, get to work like around 8:30ish, and then leave work like around 5ish. Depending on when the open mic started, I would either go home first, shower, take like a meal prep to eat or eat something really quick, then head out the door, or I would just go from work to the open mic.
And where does the parenting fit?
I wasn't a parent then.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, this was like 2014. No, 2014. So from 2014 to 2016, I was out every single day. Right? So, and then every other Sunday, I would drive from Houston to Austin to do their open mic at Cap City Comedy Club in Austin, Texas. And I would get home like around like midnight or 1 o'clock. And then I would wake up and go to work on Monday.
Oh my gosh, weren't you exhausted?
Yeah, that's what coffee's for. That's what
Coffee's in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's for me, I was chasing something where I found something. Because you have to understand, again, I do not like IT. Like I don't sugarcoat that with any boss I've ever had. I'm not an IT guy. I do not like it. I just know how to do it. Right? I'm just really good at my job, which is different than something that I like that I'm really good at. So now that I found something that I liked that I'm really good at, I'm going to chase that thing. Right? And that was the motivation.
What other things does comedy make you better at, if not at your job? What else does it?
Time management. I'm not as good, but I think I'm not that good, but compared to like the average person, I can, if I make a list of things, like if the day is planned beforehand, if I plan the day the night before, everything's getting done, right? The problem is sometimes when I don't plan the day the night before, then I'm moving around. Things will get done eventually, but then I'm still like more chaotic, right? Time management. You can't really like surprise me necessarily in conversation. I do stay more calm than the average person.
You gotta be that for, if you're bombing on stage, like you still have to be.
I stay calm when I'm doing terrible on stage, and that allows me to stay calm in more situations. I also don't view everything as confrontation. I view actual confrontation as confrontation, but sometimes people might view like, you just saying, hey, I didn't like that thing you did. I don't view that as confrontation. So whenever someone says, hey, I didn't, yeah, exactly. I see that as regular conversation for me, right? Only because, I've had to perform in places where it's like, who is this guy? Why are you here? Why are you trying to make me laugh right now? I feel like I communicate better because I can get my thought across in a more eloquent way, right? Comedy did make me talk way slower than I used to talk. Only because I'm always making sure that the words, I'm always trying to make sure that I'm using the correct words. Well, not necessarily the correct words. I'm trying to make sure that you understand what I'm trying to say. I won't always use the correct words. Sometimes I'll fumble things and I'll have to like recorrect what I'm saying or re-articulate what I'm saying. But as long as I know you understand what I'm saying, I'm fine. And that's another thing comedy has helped me with. I don't need you to accept what I'm saying, if that makes sense. I just need you to understand what I'm saying.
So tell me more, right? Like now that you are a father, like did fatherhood change your comedy, your material? Like, are you like more responsible in your jokes?
I feel like I'm still pretty reckless.
Okay.
I think fatherhood has changed more of the work ethic than the actual comedy, right? My style will always be my style, right? It's more of it's playfully dark, I think fatherhood is more, because I talk to, comedians that are fathers all the time. We all agree on this one thing. If you're a comic and you have a kid, you're either going to do one of two things. You're either going to work harder or you're going to slowly quit. There's no in between. A child will either make you work harder at this or you're going to slowly quit. And I feel like I'm just working harder and I'm working smarter also, where when I go out to do a show, I know that I'm working on 3 jokes and that's my goal. I'm just making sure I work on these 3 jokes. I'm in. Sometimes I'll stay and hang depending on what time the show is, right? And just, because you have to watch other people's sets. You have to network. You have to get to know who's in the scene. You have to know what other people are doing so you yourself can get better and be motivated to get better. And then I just go home, right? I've never, even before marriage and the kid, I never really went to like parties or anything like that. I just did, when I started comedy was it. That was the goal.
But even the way you are going, is this sustainable or are you really good at
No.
compartmentalizing?
What are you talking? What? Sustainable?
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? Is this sustainable?
Your pace, right? You're doing 3 jobs.
The pace, well, that's the thing. The pace is, don't think of it like a pace, right? Because comedy is never, you do this, you get this, right? It's more of just the journey, right? It's the pace, because the pace is like this at all times for comedy. The pace is never like, or like a straight, it's always on 10, because right now it's more of I'm trying to do 2 things. I'm still doing stand-up comedy. I'm still working on jokes. But one thing I'm trying to focus more on is the online content so I can build my fan base, right? And then I'm trying to make sure that my podcast, Tough Choice with Kazeem Rahman, it's currently on hiatus, but I want to bring it back because, I want my podcast back, essentially, right? And those 2 things I can do at home.
And how does your family react to all this? That your partner, get why you need comedy in your life?
I think, well, when I met my wife, I was already like 7 years in. So she knew from the beginning. I told her when I met her, I said, hey, I'm a stand-up comedian, right? I do IT on the side, right? And it took me a while to shift that because I used to always say I'm an IT consultant and I also do comedy. And then finally I was like, no, that's not real, right? Because
Yeah.
what do I spend most of my time doing?
And that's your passion.
Yeah, and that's the passion. So I'm a stand-up comedian and I do IT on the side to supplement the comedy. Yeah, she understood. I think no one's really gonna understand, if that makes sense, because this isn't a world where it's just easily understood unless you're in it, right? And my wife's a nurse, so she comes from a world where you get a degree, you get a job, right? If you do this, then you get this. And comedy is more, you're gonna do this for free, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to meet someone that will give you another opportunity, which will also be for free. But then you might meet another person that will give you another opportunity that will pay you exactly $10 to drive an hour south and wait to get up in front of people that don't know who you are, that don't care who you are, and then you have to drive an hour back home.
But it fulfills you, right? Like, it gives you something regardless of the compensation.
Yes. Yeah. You're chasing perfection in an art form. That's what I like to say. I genuinely feel comedy is the last true art form we have. There's no auto-tune, there's no beat behind it. It's just you, a microphone, and whoever's in front of you. Sometimes it's 300 people, sometimes it's 10, and you still have a job to do.
Are we in the 2026 AI automation questions?
No, I do use AI. I do use AI for, well, that's the thing. I don't use it for jokes. I use it to organize the business behind comedy. That's what I use AI for. A robot can't do what a human does when it comes to the creativity of it all. Because especially for the comedic brain, where I'll always have to rely on the audience reaction to switch up some of the things, right? As long as I try to figure out what am I trying to say first, and then I try to make them laugh, and then I'll try to switch it up a little bit to either actually make them laugh or make them laugh harder than I was making, right? Because you're trying to turn.
So it depends on the response.
It does kind of depend. It depends on the response. Yes, it doesn't. The response doesn't dictate what joke I'm gonna write. The response dictates how I deliver it, if that makes sense. Depending on the wording, the pausing, the inflections in my voice. Am I calm when I say this joke? Am I angry when I say this joke? Like, what emotion am I trying to carry out? There's a lot of math and a lot of psychology in joke writing.
I believe it. Does comedy help you cope? Like, I know you already said, I don't like IT, so if you have like burnout, anxiety, it's humor, like your survival mechanism.
Yeah, I think every comic, we see the world through comedy. So that's how I translate everything, right? And that will get us into trouble all the time. So something will happen and I won't be thinking, because sometimes I forget I'm not around other comedians, because every comedian is extremely dark, right? That's just the natural thing. And when we're all in conversation with each other, we're all just trying to make each other laugh, no matter what the situation is, right? So yeah, sometimes news will happen and I'll say a quick joke. I'll just say it out loud, and my wife's like, "That was dark. What is wrong with you?" And I think,
love it.
"No, I'm joking. It's just a joke." Right? So things like that. Yeah, I translate the world through the comedic lens. Right? So yeah, so sometimes someone will be sentimental and I'll smirk a little bit because I'm not necessarily thinking about what you're saying. I'm thinking about something totally different in relation to what you're saying.
Yeah. So let's do wisdom time, Kazeem. How do
Okay.
you know if you need a creative outlet like comedy? Like, if I'm not a comedian, how do you know comedy is my calling?
You don't know unless you do it,
Mhm.
right? Because honest to God, it's a calling is good way to say it, because there are funny comedians that quit. Like they are exceptionally talented and they quit comedy because they just don't want to deal with, the business behind comedy, right? So yeah, it's how do you know? You'll know something is your calling when you keep doing it over and over and over again, even when you're failing. That's when you'll know, oh, this is what I want to do. And if a calling is still something you have to work at, so it's just something, your calling, in my opinion, let me rephrase what I just said. Your calling is something that you always want to get better at when you're bad, and still want to get better at even when you're good. That's your calling.
Yeah, well, if your job is not your passion, right? If your job is not your passion, then it's find the thing that makes your job bearable.
Correct. Or it reminds you that we are all more than our title and our paycheck.
Kazeem, thanks for this real talk about someone that is definitely juggling it all and doing it somehow.
Yes, and if you are listening, and if you got a day job and a dream job, or just trying to stay sane with a creative outlet, we want to hear about it.
Yeah, what's keeping you human?
Yes, and the homework this week isn't picking one path. It is actually giving you yourself permission to need more than one.
Yeah, you are not scattered. You just refuse to be boring.
Tech by day, jokes by night, dad 24/7, or whatever version works for you, like Kazeem.
Wait, hold on. What did you say? Dad 24/7?
You're tech by day,
Okay.
jokes by night,
Okay.
and you're a dad 24/7.
What's 24/7?
24/7.
Oh, 24/7.
Yes.
Yes.
You know I'm a math guy, right? Like,
You guys better keep that in the edit. Oh, bad. So funny. No, I'm not giving you a break for 24/7. Not for 24/7. Not for 24/7. Anything else, I promise you. But 24/7, no. You keep that in the edit. I want.
Okay, we'll keep this.
This is 2 coffees in. This is Ashok.
This is Lu.
See you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks for having me.